Welcome to EnVision Center News. Today's episode is all about the American Heritage Wildlife Foundation with founder and board president Kathleen St.Clair-McGee. Welcome to EnVision Center News. My name is Sarah Hensel, and I am the resource coordinator here at the EnVision Center. Today I have a lovely guest with me, Kathleen St.Clair-McGee. I got it. And she is the president, she's the founder, and then you are also the lead wildlife care specialist of American Heritage Wildlife Foundation.
Correct. That is correct.
So we are super glad to have you here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
This is going to be a cool conversation, I think, today. I always kind of like to start out by getting to know you a little bit better so the audience can. Are you originally from North Idaho?
I am not.
You're not. Where are you from originally?
Let's just say I'm from America. Seven different states I've lived in for jobs or school. This area obviously must have captivated me somehow. Been here almost 30 years.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's easy to do, get captivated by this area.
It is.
It's so beautiful.
It really is. It really is.
Well, welcome. You know, even though you've been here for 30 years, welcome still.
Well, sure. No.
So what do you love most about this area?
The wild spaces and wild species.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that is probably why a lot of people like being here, because nature is a very valuable part of this area, and we all love seeing all the wildlife around us too. That's something that you just really miss out on when you're living in a city. Yeah. So that's a great thing about here. So tell us, since you are the the founder of American Heritage Wildlife Foundation, what inspired you to start it?
I would say what inspired me to return back to the area, because I was here for a few years, I left for a job, and then I came back. I would say what inspired me to come back and start American Heritage Wildlife Foundation would be the need.
Okay.
It was the early 90s.
Okay.
And the local domestic animal shelter had just started, so I got to meet that founder. And because of my background as a zookeeper, all of the calls were fielded to me about I found a baby bird, or my cat got a bird, or my baby squirrels just fell. I got fielded all of those phone calls because the crew at the time felt that wild animals were synonymous with exotic animals in zoo captivity.
Okay.
We're synonymous with, we're obviously not your cats and dogs. So, hey, you're going to know the answers.
Yeah.
That actually really kind of sparked the interest. At that time, there was a zoo in Spokane.
Is there not now?
There's not now.
Okay.
And so the next option was Idaho Fish and Game. They don't have the resources for rehab or, that kind of an aspect of the non-game animals. Their focus is the game species and fish. So that's kind of what prompted me to come back, start the paperwork process, the IRS documentation, the state documentation, both the federal documentation for the wildlife permits, the state documentation for the wildlife permits. I have since added state documentation for educational permits as well as federal permits for educational stuff. So lots of paperwork.
Wow.
But it's because we have the wild spaces, wild species. That's kind of what draws me here. That's what makes me want to stay here and share that with other people so that the other folks can be aware of what's around them, love what's around them, and then want to conserve what's around them.
Right. Yeah, because you're essentially kind of educating them about the animals in this area, how to respect them, respecting the nature in this area, and like you said, preserving that, which is really vital. So you basically created American Heritage as a way to fill a gap that we had here.
Yes.
So what do you feel like if you could summarize your mission, what would it be?
So the mission of American Heritage Wildlife Foundation is to conserve the local wildlife through rehabilitation of the injured and orphaned native animals, as well as provide community education. So community education of how to cohabitate with them, community education of how to respect them and keep them wild, how to allow your space to be their space as well, such as, the native plants. What do they need as a habitat? What should we try and provide as a natural habitat for them so that we can all cohabitate together and the next generation can still remain.
Yeah. And I think this area has done a great job of that too, but it needs to be furthered, right? And that's kind of what you guys are doing.
Correct.
Like this, let's preserve this.
Yes.
So give me the reasoning and meaning behind the name. It's definitely a mouthful, but it's a really cool name, and I was kind of wondering how you came up with it.
So, thank you. Yes, it is a mouthful, very much so. But as you also hinted, it's loaded.
Yeah.
Because American Heritage Wildlife Foundation, so if you break it down, just AHWF. Wow, there's wildlife. It's so beautiful. So American Heritage Wildlife Foundation. So American, because we're only the Native American species. We're only the native species of our area. Wildlife. Our heritage is going to be, what is the heritage that we all appreciate? We all appreciate going outside, recreating, hunting, fishing, hiking, bird sightseeing, all of that. So that's our heritage, is to appreciate and value the wildlife species, the wild spaces. Wildlife, obviously, we take care of the wildlife.
It's like that one's a given.
In need.
Yeah.
And a foundation, instead of any other explanation, would be foundation, because we want to build that foundation for the community, to have this as a resource, to have this a foundation as a base for learning and experiencing and appreciating and understanding and conserving.
Nice. That was great. That was a great reasoning for that. I loved it. So what kind of animals do you guys rescue?
Idaho has roughly 280 species in the state, and we have permits and written permission for approximately 270 of those species.
Okay.
So everything from amphibians to reptiles to, at varying degrees, all of the bird species. Obviously, eagles are going to be long-term specialized care.
Okay.
But if we do have an eagle call, we can stabilize, or we can connect with people that can stabilize to get it to somebody.
Do you get those often?
We do get some phone calls, usually hit by car on the big guys.
Wow.
But as far as whether it's a songbird or a duck, a goose, an owl, a hawk, herons, grebes, all the bird species, as well as the vast majority of the mammals. So, and it's the non-game mammals. So all of the squirrels, 5 different kind of squirrels, raccoons, weasels, mink, mice. You'd be surprised the number of people that call with the deer mice, the wild deer mice.
Wow.
And it is delightful, because that reinforces that there's so many tender hearts.
Yeah.
That they're going to be concerned about a little nest of mice.
Yeah.
And we have volunteers that are committed to raising those little mice.
I bet they're super cute too.
So
especially
that they
when
can,
they're like really tiny. Yeah.
Yes. And so they're very fastidious. They're very clean and tidy.
Yeah.
And so they can get raised up and released. And then, of course, they're going to be part of the circle, part of the web of life. But that's what it's all about. So what we are not able to care for as far as mammals go are the largest species. So any of the hoofstock.
Okay.
As well as probably cougars or bears. We were focusing on trying to get bear cub permission, but we needed to get the money to build the enclosure, just to ask the state. The state wants to have enclosure, so we need the money. It was this endless loop, and we're on our way to raising the funds and having the discussion with the state to get approval to have the cubs.
Wow.
Of which there is a spike in the number of, unfortunately, orphan cubs, especially in the spring. There's only a handful of bear facilities in the nation, and they've all been at capacity or over. So that was something we wanted to assist with, because we felt there was a need. But the new game commissioners have ruled out that there's no new game mammal permits going to be issued. So if there is a bear cub, then we have to refer to somebody else, or if it's a hoofstock, we refer to somebody else. But pretty much everything else, we do our best to step up, feel the need, and feel the obligation to help that native animal.
Do you think in the future that will be something that you guys kind of strive for, is getting those larger animals as you kind of grow and change? Do you think that's something that you'll kind of work into?
Ideally, that would be nice,
Yeah.
to be able to provide more. And every year the demand gets greater as far as the need for the care that we provide.
Yeah.
This last year doubled the need. Normally, we're in the ballpark about 300 telephone calls. We had over 600 phone calls.
Whoa.
And our volunteerism, the number of people that were coming out, our interns that we had available, all that, those all declined. So there's a greater need with less people. So that's why it's so important to really want to reach out into the communities. Please, please, please.
Yeah.
Look at your schedule, make some time, and come out, because we are volunteer.
Yeah.
And it's over 4,000 volunteer hours every year now. That's what our number is now.
That is crazy.
So along with the rehab, we want to provide, an educational base, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I mean, there definitely is. I can't believe that. 600 calls?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. So I just kind of want to know, what are some of the most interesting rescues that you've had?
Well, I've been accomplishing wildlife rehab for the past 20 years.
Wow.
So when you think of 20 years, approximately 100 individuals every year, it's just staggering the number of patients and who can really stand out. And in all reality, every release is a special patient. Every success story of an animal that gets back out there is a win. That's something that touches your heart. Even the patients that don't make it to being released, they still touch your heart. And so to honor them, as well as to announce to the community and get the community sparked and engaged. I've actually written a book, the sixth in a series of different books that I've written. So the sixth book that I've written is Divine Calling, and that one actually is a series of anecdotes.
Oh, that's cool.
So
very
yeah,
nice.
that
So
one is
people need to
available.
look out for
So
that.
they can so they can read, about the 1-week-old bat that was the size of your fingernail that was needed to have care.
That is cool.
The crow that survived all of the very specific treatment of avian pox and was able to overcome that. The great blue heron that was shot that was able to overcome that.
Wow.
Just pretty much every year there's always several that kind of stand out. And so you name an animal and have probably been able to help save that. Flying squirrels, most people don't even know we have the northern flying squirrels.
I did not know we had those
We have the northern flying squirrels, and with them, basically only a third of those youngsters make it to adulthood.
Really?
So when we are able to save any of the northern flying squirrels and get them to adulthood, that is a huge win, because we're able to help try and provide the stable population for them, since we won't do that. Some of the songbirds that we've been able to treat, yellow-headed blackbirds, we had a juvenile that we were able to raise up. So it's just pied-billed grebes, and we've been able to migrate in style. They came in late in the season. They don't hang out here, so we need to coordinate a taxi drive all the way over to the coast where it could connect with another group of grebes.
That is crazy.
Or the sapsucker that we had that came in late season, youngster, by the time its wing healed up, we're way in winter. We needed to find a taxi person that was willing to drive all the way down to Arizona, connect with the rehab center down there, so that they could get acclimated to and then reintroduced into a group of other sapsuckers. So, it's just...
It's a lot of commitment.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. I
It
think
really
that's
is.
fantastic.
Yes.
So I know that you have a lot on your plate because you're taking care of all these rescues that people send your way. So I kind of wanted to focus on the facility, day-to-day functions. So what's a typical day like at the Heritage Foundation?
Typical day at the foundation kind of is a seasonal situation. But most people think, okay, the Wildlife Foundation is going to be just taking care of animals. It's more than that. It's so much more than that. But the thing that really sparks people's attention is, well, what's it like day to day with the animals?
Yeah.
So the days are quite long. Last year I was putting myself into 16, 18, 20 hours a day.
Wow.
But I try to keep it obviously not that heavy for my interns and my volunteers. So our mornings, the earlier we start, the sooner we can stop. Mornings are usually really early. We do have university students come in as interns, so that helps a lot. They can break off. Mornings are usually anywhere from 6 in the morning till about 8 in the morning, depending upon the patients. Depends upon how hectic the day is. For example, if we have the insectivorous birds, so any of the swallows or swifts that just eat insects, they don't have a crop, so they don't have a food storage pouch. So they need to get fed every 15 minutes for 16 hours a day.
Whoa.
So that is, you have to be there. You have to be feeding them.
That is a lot.
And on top of that feeding, then there's the everything else. Your mammals are on around the clock. So they're every couple of hours, unless they're really tiny, and then they're about every half hour. As they age, that changes on their feeding routine. But in between your feeding, you're going to have the diet preparations. You're going to have medications that need to be administered, enclosure cleaning, keeping up with laundry, keeping up with dishes, our inventory of supplies, make sure that we have sufficient supplies. We can't just run down to the store and pick up what we need. It usually needs to be ordered online from specific vendors.
Okay.
So that takes time. So we need to make
like
sure
a
we have
never-ending cycle.
never-ending cycle to get all of
Yeah.
that in. Then there's coordinating fundraising. There's coordinating educational programs. We have the nature walk. So do we have any groups that are coming through? What kind of educational aspects do we need to make sure is out there? Can we coordinate with the guides to be there? Do the plants along the trail need to be tended to? What about the game cameras? Do we need to look at anything fun on the cameras? Writing social media blogs and posts, connecting with our blogs, writing articles for the paper.
Doing
Our educational
interviews.
aspect,
Yeah.
the interviews, responding to those phone calls.
Yeah.
That is a huge one. Checking the emails, looking for grants, trying to find sponsorships. Just pretty much, it's operating a business.
Sure. Yeah.
It's operating a business with the added level of animal care, with the added level of look at where we live.
Yeah.
We're in a rural area. It takes
Yeah.
time, so we need to make sure we always need to make sure that there's that buffer space. If there's 2 vet clinics that do work with us in Sandpoint,
Okay.
so if they call us and say, hey, we have an animal we think is a candidate for rehab, we need to find a way to connect with volunteers to be either taxi, or we need to coordinate with people to be at the facility so one of us can go to that vet clinic to retrieve that animal. Because
Okay.
the sooner that animal gets out, the more likely it's going to be able to survive. Because a vet clinic is not a center for a wild animal. Just the noise and the chaos and all of that is not going to be
I
conducive
didn't even
to.
think about that.
Right.
So,
Right.
do you see that often where people are just like, oh, I'm going to go take this bald eagle or whatever to a vet clinic?
And that's what we try not to do, because
Okay.
the vets, they're not getting paid for this.
Yeah.
And by them being gracious enough and accommodating their time schedule to examine this animal and squeeze it in, that takes away from their paying clients.
Yeah.
And this is very much a generous offer, and we don't want to abuse that generosity. We want to be able to respond right away to them. And that's why it's important that people, there's a little wild animal in my backyard, I'm just going to go take it to the vet. The vet clinic is not that.
Right.
Your vet clinic is for when you need your vaccinations for your dog or your cat,
Yeah.
or that kind of a situation.
More like domestic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. They're not going to have that knowledge and that understanding of wild species as well as a rehabber is.
That's a really good point, because I'm sure some people that's what you naturally gravitate to. These people work
Right.
with animals, so
Right. An animal is an animal is an
Yeah,
animal.
right?
No,
But different needs.
Correct.
So what are the different kinds of ways that you guys evaluate and provide for each animal?
That is an absolutely amazing question. That is the pinnacle of what wildlife rehab is. And that's exactly where wildlife rehab is completely different from raising a domestic animal.
Okay.
And this is one of the major issues and one of the major points that is really important to get across to this wonderful caring community, is that a domestic animal, if you've perhaps raised a kitten, then absolutely you are able to raise that kitten. That pet store can sell you the right products.
Yeah.
Maybe your neighbor can share some information with you on how they raised a kitten, and it's all applicable.
Sure.
Wild animals,
Totally
whole
different.
other ballgame, completely other ballgame. Because how you evaluate the animals, number one, the number of species we deal with. But any wild animal that comes in, a wildlife rehabber needs to be 1 part medic, 1 part biologist, 1 part surrogate mother, 1 part nutritionist, and 1 part zookeeper. Each patient is viewed from multiple levels of need. And again, that's where rehab is totally different from raising a domestic or a farm animal. Because you need to evaluate. Well, our evaluation is based on thousands of hours of hands-on experience plus specialized training. And that's only applicable at a rehab wildlife facility.
Wow.
And so what you need to do when that animal comes in is the animal in the normal temperature range, in the normal body weight range? Is the animal injured in any way? Is it hydrated to a sufficient level? Is it healthy enough to even be fed? Is it suffering from parasites or disease? Is it exhibiting natural behaviors? Will this animal be able to survive the stress of captivity? What is the long-term prognosis of this animal actually being able to be released? And do we actually, as a facility, have the resources to provide all that necessary care? So the simple question of, okay, how do we evaluate? That is loaded. And that's why we do require our volunteers to go through training, to go through read through the protocols, understand that this is totally different. And this is not something that, okay, here's a nest of squirrels, go ahead and raise those up in your back room. Kind of a thing. No.
Yeah.
You have to have the training because you need to know what's going on. You need to know all the specialty behaviors with that squirrel, with what you're looking for, not looking for, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
wow. There's
Yes.
probably a lot more involved in this than a lot of people know.
Right.
Even for me, I'm still learning new things.
Right.
I think that's so cool that you guys are so committed to doing that. And, I was thinking about it. A lot of people do like to bring you guys things,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Which is
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Because it shows like people have this inherent nature to want to nurture
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And they're like, hey, I don't have the
Yes.
ability to do it. Let me take it to somebody that
Right.
can.
Right.
And they see you guys as that entity that represents that, which that's great.
Right.
So what should somebody do if they find an injured animal that is something that your facility does take?
So if you find an animal, let's back that way up first. So if you're drinking your coffee on your porch, you're looking out and you see some wild animals just skipping around, be it little birds or squirrels or whatever the case may be. Before you do anything, just remember AHWF.
Okay.
Because be aware. Are you aware of what you're seeing? Are these animals that are supposed to be what you're seeing? Or is it something that's not supposed to be there?
Okay.
H, hesitate. Hesitate before you approach an animal. If I see a squirrel romping around in the backyard and it's just kind of hanging in the backyard, sitting there, or a little bird just sitting there, I'm not going to go rushing up and pick it up. Oh, you must be orphaned.
Yeah. Okay.
No. We hesitate.
Yeah.
Hesitate. We kind of stand back. We keep sipping our coffee, just watching that little one. And then we watch. We watch for signs of distress or signs of normal behavior. Because that little squirrel might have just been romping around and it's just taking a breather. And pretty soon it's going to scamper up a tree. It'll be fine. So you want to watch. But if you do see signs of distress, then you want to follow through. You want to follow through with connecting with the proper facilities. And so if it is something that our center does take, we will advise you. If it's something that our center does not take, we can still advise you. We can still refer you to the other agencies. So again, you want to be aware of your surroundings, watch, hesitate before approaching, watch for signs of distress, and then follow through. So follow through with the next right action. And the next right action will be either connect with us, connect with the Animal Help Now database, which is a national database.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's recognizable. If you're in Ohio and you see, you can go to AH Now for Animal Help Now database, plug in where you are, it'll connect you right with your vet clinic or a rehabber.
Wow.
Idaho only has a handful of rehabbers, and I've just formed, thankfully, myself and a couple of the people were the co-founding members of, or the starting founding members of the Association of Idaho Rehabbers for Wildlife.
That's cool.
So the handful of Idaho rehabbers were Air for Wildlife. So you can find, if you're wherever you are in the state of Idaho, go to airforwildlife.org and you will see who's in your neighborhood. So first, if you are certain that the animal does need help, you want to call. And obviously, after you call, leave a message. It's a long message. It's a very clear message on the steps to do. And then remember to leave a message. We have to know what you have, who you are, and how we can connect with you so that we can respond. But remember, we're volunteers. We are volunteers that are busy with our own schedules and trying to carve out of our schedule, I can go over here for a few hours and help out and lend a hand. So please be patient and understand we are volunteers.
Yeah.
We're not paid staff. We can't respond to you right away. And if I have an animal room full of 36 animals that are needing fed and medicated and tended to, I can't not feed them on that schedule to answer your call right now.
Sure.
I'm going to need to get back to that. So you need to leave a message of who you are, how we can help. If it is severely injured, so if you see blood, if you see broken bones, you see significant trauma, that is a situation for a medical expert.
Okay.
That's the situation that you can, again, Animal Help Now database, or connect with your local vet. Your local vet can possibly refer you to a vet that will treat them. Now, birds are the specialty. They're most vets are okay with kind of identifying some mammal help.
Really?
But birds are another level of specialty, so not every vet's going to be able to help you with the birds, because it is a specialty in the med school. So
Okay.
they, again, you might have to make several phone calls to try and get some help. If it is either way, animal in distress, box. Calm, quiet, box. Don't force food. Don't force water. Don't keep poking at it. Don't take
Leave it
pictures.
alone,
Don't let your
yeah.
little ones pet it. Just calm box. Let it be back in the back. Calm, quiet space. That is going to allow that animal to de-stress and do less harm to itself by being in that listers. And then be willing to drive it to our facility once you've had a return phone call, or locate a neighbor or a friend or a family member that can drive it out to our facility. I wish we had a wild animal taxi or wild animal ambulance.
That would be kind of neat. Huh?
That would be so cool.
That would be cool.
But we are limited to having just a few volunteers that are willing to be animal taxis. But again, they're trying to squeeze it in between their jobs and their activities and so forth. So the time it takes for us to stop feeding and medicating and tending, to talk to you, to try and coordinate with our volunteers, for them to come out to pick up, if you could just please try and coordinate with whoever is in your neighborhood to deliver that animal to us, if it is something applicable that we do need to see right now.
Yeah.
So be willing to do that and be patient. Just, we know that you're watching this animal with your heart, and we completely sympathize with the need, the immediate need, and we understand that possibly better than most folks. We understand that speed saves lives.
Yeah.
But you have to be patient, because we're all volunteers. We're doing the best we can as fast as we can with the very limited resources that we have. So be patient, be kind.
That was very clear and concise. And I hope that kind of helps, clear up some of what people are wondering.
Sure.
If they do find an animal,
Right.
I do want to help it. What do I
Yes.
do? And
Yes.
and that was
Yes.
good. So I really want to start kind of focusing on what kind of volunteer opportunities you have, because you're talking about how you guys are volunteers. You have so much load that's coming on you because you pretty much are the main place that people go to.
Yes.
So what type of volunteer positions are available?
Well, our volunteer positions are for anyone over 18.
Okay.
A lot of parents have fabulous children that are so tenderhearted, and they love animals. They love animals deeply. They want to help the animals and so forth. And so the parents ask about what kind of opportunity they have for their youngsters. Unfortunately, our situation is not one for youngsters.
Okay.
So the youngsters can come on out, schedule some time on the nature walk, and we will coordinate with our volunteer to try and come out and be your nature guide to experience animals from that standpoint. But as far as hands-on care of the animals, the wild animals, is not something that is applicable for little hands for several different reasons. But if you're over 18, absolutely come on out, sign up. The webpage does have the volunteer form. Just look under Warriors and Visionaries for Wildlife. So there's your PDF, huge list. And again, it's not just animal tasks. So helping with laundry, helping with the dishes, responding to the telephone calls, and responding to the telephone calls after you've undergone training, that is something that can be done remotely. Coordinating upcoming fundraisers, outreach events, checking our inventory of supplies, researching fundraising opportunities, grants, writing blogs, writing articles, getting into the list of taxi drivers, connecting with our volunteers, keeping our volunteers all updated of what's going on, being a board member, presenting the educational opportunities. I just gave a private group a library lecture last week, so there's always that aspect if you want to get involved in teaching and sharing that knowledge and that love. Touring the groups, maintaining the vegetation or the trail cams along the nature walk, helping promote all the 7 books that we have as fundraising opportunities. And then there is the animal care duties. And it would be nice if we could block in 3-4 hours a day, every 7 days a week from approximately May through August. That would be helpful to supplement the interns, supplement me with that animal care. But again, animal care people need to go through all the steps, all the protocols, all the training, so that they are well versed in what happens next on what they're seeing.
Wow. So there's a lot of really good opportunities to
There
kind of
is.
help further
There
this
is.
cause.
There is.
So what about interns? How do interns get interested
Right.
in your
Right.
organization, become a part of it?
Right. So interns are scheduled through and found through the universities.
Okay.
So we send out to several different job boards, if you will, and we send that out. The intern application is also on the AHWF.org webpage. And that is a process where we try and find somebody who's willing to, in their case for the interns, we have on-site housing in a small RV, so they are paid a small stipend as well as learning all of
Oh,
this
that's
hands-on
cool.
experience,
Yeah.
so that they're there pretty much full-time.
Okay.
If anybody in the community is interested, we can probably scratch out enough of our budget so we can accommodate with at least fuel reimbursement to come on out and spend a day a week, schedule up to be maybe a daily intern. If you want to be the Monday day intern, go ahead and apply for the internship on our webpage. That way we know you're going to be the right fit and we're going to be the right fit for you. We want that to be a two-way street.
Sure.
We want to make sure that it's the right fit. And just learn what it's all about.
Yeah.
And,
Do you ever get out-of-state interns?
we do.
Okay.
Surprisingly enough, the majority of our interns do come from out of state.
Really?
And another surprising factor, which amazes me, is through the years, the volunteers that we've had consistently every week that come out and spend a day with us or several hours a day with us are usually from the furthest out locations. Naples, Carywood,
Wow.
Samuels, Sagal.
Because you are located in Clark Fork.
And we are in Clark Fork.
Yeah.
And so those folks commit to making that drive. So when I hear folks from Sandpoint, oh, well, you're so far. How come I'm looking at this? How come I'm looking at this wonderful person who makes a commitment every week to come out here from Naples or from Carywood? They come out every week and do this, and you're 20 minutes up the street.
Sure. Wow.
So if you care enough to call, if you care enough to get involved, if you care enough to be concerned about that animal, you care enough to want to help, you're going to find a way to help. You're gonna make that happen.
Yeah, if you've got that passion, you
You're
will
gonna
make
make that
time for the
happen.
things you care about.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So what do you think are some of the most exciting aspects of volunteering for your rescue?
Working towards keeping Idaho wild.
Good
Working with animals you might not know existed.
Sure. Yeah.
And working with a dedicated team building a legacy.
I think that is great. I love that. Yeah, it's such a needed thing, and one would think just because of how Idaho is, and Idaho is very geared towards nature and preserving that nature, that would be something super important in this state. Maybe that's just something we have to work towards, is that, I think we talked earlier about my husband and I visiting Asheville, North Carolina, and how that area around there is very focused towards preserving that wildlife, educating people of the native species around there, and how that would be really cool if we had something like that around here.
That's actually the major vision,
Yeah.
is to create the first Inland Pacific Northwest Nature Center.
That
That's
would be
always been our vision.
awesome. That would be awesome. And that kind of plays into one of the questions I was going to ask you about goals. So would you basically say that is one of the goals going forward, is to have that nature center in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
So for those folks that have never been to the Nature Center, which small world, I actually worked there.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, you actually go there.
Went there.
And realize how amazing it is, and what type of potential this area has for that. A nature center is a location that not only is going to be able to provide rehabilitative care for the native, injured, and orphaned, but also a facility where the community come and learn about the native species on a hands-on way. They can see and appreciate those animals up close. There's going to be educational opportunities at a nature center that you're not going to be able to get by just walking out in the woods.
Right.
When you're new to the area, this area in particular, you ask a local, hey, I want to go spend some time in nature, but I don't really know how. The locals can say, well, just go take a hike.
Right.
Because we grew, you grew up with it. You're not afraid of it.
Right.
You understand it. If you're new to the area and you only know concrete and asphalt, you are scared to death to go out in the woods because of what you've seen on Hollywood.
Right.
And so a nature center provides that core, provides that understanding, provides that level of appreciation that you're not going to be able to get just walking in the woods.
Yes, we need that. We need that here. So any future events or announcements that you have?
Well, I would like to try and coordinate. Every year we try and do a highway cleanup around Earth Day. And we do have a 3-mile stretch of scenic Highway 200 that we have. So we'd like to get that coordinated. But again, we need volunteers to help coordinate that. But we're really excited about bringing back our clean comedy show.
Oh, yeah.
This will be our 7th year. We had a 2-year hiatus, but this will be our 7th year of having the clean comedy show, silent auction fundraiser for us. And so this year we're looking forward to bring back Tyler Bowe. So we're hoping that we're going to make that happen again. We need folks that are going to be able to join into the committee because we really need to laugh again.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, everybody just needs to laugh again a lot, and Tyler will certainly be able to do that. And we've planned the second Saturday of September. So that's going to be September 10th, I believe. Second Saturday in September. We will be there. Show. We traditionally have it. Doors open at 6 traditionally. So again, we're looking forward to bringing that. We do have folks interested in having, I believe it's going to be our 5th annual cider pressing festival. So we want to bring that back again. We might even have a location in Sandpoint. We have been providing that for the community in Clark Fork, and we're looking at having a second one actually in Sandpoint area. So again, a nice committee of volunteers that can get that going on. Cider pressing committee, that would be fabulous. It's a fun way for the community to get together, as well as fundraise for our group, because we definitely need the funds. We are ballpark of 15, 20, 25 grand every year. And we are exclusively community supported. We don't receive county, city, state, federal funds. We don't receive anything. It's all grants and community support.
Wow. Well, I'm just thinking about all you guys have to do for food,
right?
That's a lot in itself.
Right.
So, wow, Kathleen. Well, this has been a really good conversation. I know for all the nature lovers in the area, this is going to be a lot of information.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to tell the viewers out there that if you want to know more about volunteer opportunities, you can always go on to Volunteer Connect. You are an active person on there. So please go on there, because we do need things like the taxi drivers and people that can feed, after they're trained, of course.
Right.
So, and then also to get more information, you can go on to your Facebook page. You guys are very active on there.
Yes.
You have your website, which is AHWF.org.
Correct.
So plenty of information that people can go and find out about you guys and what you do, and are people allowed to just come visit and just kind of see what you guys do every day, or is that kind of...
We don't have a facility per se, not yet, which is another reason to try and build towards the nature center so we can be a public entity. Right now we're still private parcel, so it's call and schedule an event, and our permits forbid us from actually touring people around to see the wild animals. So that's there's another separation of how it's different from a zoo setting versus a rehab setting.
Sure.
But we do have the nature walk, and on our nature walk, we have the state and federal permits for having the hides, the pelts, skulls. We have large educational displays, life-size moose, wolf pelt, coyote pelt. You can see the difference between the two.
Cool. Yeah.
We have a wingspan display. So how wide is a golden eagle, and how wide is a little hummingbird? So you can see what is the straddle of an elk, how big is a moose antler, those kind of things. So we can connect you with nature. You can see the little birds that are in the area. You can hear them. Your guide will respond to them. So we do have a way to accommodate that interest in seeing wildlife up close and personal, but it's not going to be the patients that are in care. But we do need you to schedule appointments, because as stated previously, we're volunteers. There's not somebody necessarily always there. That parcel of land is also my home, so it is not open to the public. And I work a paying job 5 days a week.
There you go. Yeah.
So I'm definitely not always there.
Yeah. Well, is there any other way that people can get in contact with you if they're interested in volunteering? Do you have an email? Or?
We do have the email. Yes, thank you for asking. We do have the email, which is ahwf@sandpoint.net, as well as phone call. We are in the unique location of North Idaho that cell service, internet, all of that is non-existent. So landline. Landline.
There you go.
208-266-1488. That is it, landline.
Awesome.
So yes, absolutely give us a call.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kathleen.
Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure
Yes,
having
indeed.
you. And
thanks for having me.
to everybody, tune in next time to see who we have, and thanks for joining us.
You bet.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. For more information, you can go to crecIdaho.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. We will see you again soon.